Good evening. This is Ryan Miller. I am the founder of Parent Dome, where I speak on multiple platforms about keeping kids safe in a digitally immersed life. I talk about awareness, oversight, and controls. Those are my primary topic areas to prevent children from the dangers, risks, threats, and permanence of the internet. Tonight I am doing a multi-broadcast that I am broadcasting live on Periscope. I am broadcasting live on Blab. I also am live streaming on TV at Nissan Communications. I encourage communication on all platforms. So Periscope, it's normal and customary for people to text. I have a live chat available at Nissan Communications, which can be done by calling in at 919-518-9773 or at Computers 2K Voice on Skype. Also, you can chat in the Blab, and I'm hoping I can have the Blab window open too at the same time. Ooh, thank you so much for the notation that it was off the record. So I'm going to click that on the record. Thank you so much for that, Carlton. Appreciate that. So a few little bit of housekeeping issues. My topic tonight is about social media. It is ethically and morally subjective. And when I am doing live broadcast as on Periscope, I manage the content and the discussion that happens on Periscope. In the domain of Blab, because I can have multiple people participate in the conversation, I have been designated the title of host. So I have the ability to make decisions as to who can come into that discussion and how they can participate, and I can manage that ethic based upon the way I want to manage that broadcast. That is going to become an issue tonight in this topic, because I do want to tell a situation that did happen today live on the Blab platform that exploited the weakness of there being an absence of ethical and moral foundation in dealing in social media. So as the host, I am in control of that. So in the Periscope audience, I give them the ability to be aware of this terms of service. This terms of service, which is probably backwards on Blab, I apologize for that, is available to my Periscope audience to download in my profile. So they can click the little Peri-do down below. It opens up my profile. This bit.ly link is available for them to watch this video and understand how I manage my content. Because both Periscope and Blab terms of service afford for minor children to come into these broadcasts. The terms of service are clearly written that a 13-year-old child can come into these platforms. Unfortunately, there's no way to validate the age of anybody that clicks an I agree button. And in Periscope, there are younger than 13-year-olds that participate. And on Blab, there are under than 13-year-olds participating. Blab's position and Periscope's position, legally expressed in their terms of service, say this is not their responsibility to enforce who is coming in. It is up to the contract holders of the devices in which people are getting into, and that would be on the Periscope, the parents need to authorize that. Blab, parents need to authorize that. This is clearly an indemnification that happens with social media platforms. It is up to the parents to be good stewards and reading and understanding what is happening when you attend a social media platform. Unfortunately, nobody really reads the terms of service. So I apologize. I missed a couple of people coming in. Skylar, good to see you. First Priority, good to see you as well. Thanks for joining tonight. So this is a tough topic, and it's not an easy one to address. So today, in a broadcast that happened on the social media platform Blab, there was a minor child that is known on the Blab platform. Some people are representing he is 17, but he has previously admitted that he is 14. He does not reside in the US. He resides in a country outside of the US. He has been known on this platform to be disruptive, vulgar, and in the social media spheres, the people identify that behavior as trolling. He self-professes to at times have trolled. This is a self-profession from him. There has been several intervention attempts in other people in these platforms to engage him in one-on-one discussions on the platform, kind of a therapeutic experience it was kind of like a public therapy discussion. And I'm always of the opinion that therapeutic discussions are left behind skilled clinicians behind a closed door, but this was more of a therapeutic intervention to try to help this child. And I think the efforts that were done in that were very valiant, and I think some of the recommendations were good, but neither here nor there. This happened some time ago. This person left Blab. Several people have reported this person, but they came back into Blab. And there was a lot of lively conversation about this individual. This individual, minor child, had also been engaged, but what has been identified and spread throughout the social media platform was a known and convicted sexual predator. So live in the Blab platform, we have a minor child conversing with adults, regardless of gender, doesn't matter to me, but we have conversing with adults and also have been conversing with an identified sexual predator. So the people within the Blab community thought it would be prudent to distribute this person's rap sheet throughout the Blab audience. They went from room to room sending a hyperlink of this person's conviction rap sheet. Very interesting and a very proactive way to alert a community about a sexual predator. The Blab community had two other adults that were interacting with this young child and trying to be supportive and engaging. And then there was another broadcast that took place that was a title that attracted me. The title, I can't remember it exactly. It was done by somebody well-known on Blab, and it says, "Parents, you should know that the internet is dangerous and has bad people." That was the title. So relative to my topic about the dangers, risks, threats, and permanence of the internet, I knew this person, and I went in and I checked out this Blab, not aware of the previous Blab discussions that were taking place. And myself and this woman had a conversation about this minor child, him having been engaged by a sexual predator, in addition to some other adult figures that are conversing and in a relationship conversationally with this minor child. And she was asking me, what are my thoughts regarding that? My thoughts are, first of all, the participation on a social media platform, you can't call foul on anything happens. It is a wild, wild west. There is no audit, there is no verification, there is no screening process as to when somebody clicks I agree. Whether that person was a sexual predator or that person was a multi-convicted, imprisoned felon has no bearing on the discussion, because the social media platform makes itself available to anybody to come in, and they can say whatever they see fit. Now, the point that I made earlier about me being the host, I have the ability to control what that micro community is on Blab. As the broadcaster on Periscope, I manage the micro community of the people that are attending my broadcast. My terms of service identify how I manage my broadcast on Periscope. It adheres to the terms of service of Periscope, but I define that I have minor children and no profanity in my broadcast because I know I have minor children. In the Blab platform, the host gets to determine what their own moral and ethic worldview is and what they will allow or not allow, without regard to whether they have minors or not in the broadcast. It is just me in Periscope and in Blab that is unique to identify. I acknowledge minors come into my broadcast. In addition to being consistent to my messaging that I want to protect those minors, I would not want to introduce information to minors that I would believe would be in contrary to a parental objective in their own raising of that child. So I say no profanity, no gross, vulgar images, things that are disruptive, I remove from my broadcast. In the Blab environment, I'm going to speak about that specifically, that as the host, I control what happens in the side roll, what images are allowed to be put into the side roll. I have the same power that I can remove someone from the broadcast. Blab has the ability that other people can come and have a visual discussion with me, that they can take a seat. And depending upon their language, their understanding how I am managing the broadcast, they can either comply or not. And if they choose not to comply, it's up to me as the broadcaster whether I allow it to continue, I warn them, or I remove them from the broadcast. So today in Blab, I was in the conversation with the woman. She had invited another man that was this individual that has been speaking to this minor child, and he came into the room. He had a very different opinion on morality and ethics as opposed to a relationship with a grown man having a relationship with a minor child. I was trying to get him to define his point, but he found nothing objectionable about an adult having a relationship outside of parental visibility with a minor child. I had told him that in this broadcast on Blab, we have minor children present in here. I kindly ask that whatever language that you feel so compelled to use, that you're aware that you're going to have minor children in this broadcast and you govern your language. And he said, well, that's just the way I talk. Am I watching on the phone? I am watching on the phone. I'm watching both. I'm sorry, I'm not. So he continued to use the expletive beginning with the letter F in his normal means of communication. And I asked him, listen, I understand how our language is important and these are power words and you really want to be impassioned about what you want to communicate with me, but recognize we have minor children in this broadcast, and I kindly ask that you govern your speech to be respectful of those younger children in here, that their parents don't necessarily want to hear that message. It's a G-rated broadcast in here if we have 13. But this person pretty much dismissed my request and continued down that discussion. Now, I did not have the H power in the Blab broadcast. I was not the host. I did what I could do to influence this person to modify his speech because he was in the presence of minors. The host has the ability to enforce what I say or accept it. This particular host accommodated that language even in the presence of minors, and I had said my piece. I don't need to make my point over and over again. The choice was now mine. The choice was mine whether I would sit and tolerate his conversation and his language in disrespect of parents and children that would be in this broadcast to the benefit of making a greater point. And I did, because I tell people I am not a prude. My wife has got a potty mouth. I've heard these words before. In occasion, I have used the words myself to drive emphasis. But when I use those words, people know they're in shock that Ryan's using a power word, so he must be really passionate at this point. And that's the way I use that language. I don't use it casually. I use other words in those spaces. Power words are meant for power. Just my worldview, just the way I live my life. I don't expect other people to behave that way. I requested people to be aware that there are other people out there. So I appreciate people listening at this moment. This is a tough topic for me, I would like to invite those that are watching at Nissan Communications. If you would like to participate in the discussion, you can call in at 919-518-9773, or you can come in via Skype at Computers 2K Voice. And I thank those people that have been on Periscope that jumped over to the Blab. I thank you so much for that. One of my friends on Blab said, I swear a lot, it's how I talk too. I, however, do my absolute best to use vocabulary well beyond the ability of any children present. So here is a person running for Zion. Good to see you, my friend. Here is a person that is cognizant enough that they recognize that in their peer groups, that language may be acceptable. But in the presence of children, they're going to modify their behavior and refrain and restrain themselves from using that kind of language. Kudos to you, Mac. That's a beautiful, lovely thing that you will be aware and sensitive to those in your surrounding, that you're willing to make that modification. And I honestly know that if I had made that request to you in my broadcast, you would have been like my friend Blackouts does on my Periscope. He and I have a different view. But when he comes in, he says something, but he doesn't say it in the actual words. He pokes fun at it, which I get humor in his creative way in communicating in my broadcast that way. That's fine. Periscope audience, I'm going to hit a pause for a second. I'm going to jump over to Blab, and I'm going to ask Carlton. I believe it's Carlton. I think that's Carlton that wants to ask a question. He's going to come into a chair. So this is how Blab works. Oh, that's not it. Sorry. All right, Carlton, I opened a seat for you. Wow, this is new. Join. How come it's opening up to me? Darn it. Oh, there it is. Show colors.
Let me do that.
Accept. Okay, I think I got it. All right, Carlton, good to see you.
Thank you.
I can see Carlton's face.
I've got a pretty bad echo. I'm not sure why. Okay, it seems to have gone away. Okay, great. I only wanted to comment on one thing. I was sort of, I only for a short time, but I was part of that discussion a little bit, the same one that we're talking about here this morning. And there was a comment made, which I think was made with the best of intents, but I found it to be, I think counterproductive is the best word.
Carlton, can I ask just one thing?
Of course.
For the purpose of the broadcast that I'm doing now, I would ask that I'm trying not to use any names when I identify.
I wouldn't use any names.
Okay, nope, so thank you very much. Thank you.
So this person suggested or made a comment that no adult should ever befriend a minor in public media, whether it be Periscope or Hangouts or Blab, that it was always inappropriate. The problem that I have with that, and I think this person was simply trying to go maybe overboard in the protection of the child, if there is such a thing, but I think in doing that, they are robbing the minors of what used to be a very close community. Or, before we had electronic media, children were protected by their parents, but they were also protected by friends and neighbors and the people that they associated with, who would watch out for them and make sure that nothing untoward happened. And I think to say that it is always inappropriate for an adult to befriend a minor on social media, I think is problematic for that reason. I think you are robbing the child of the very protection that you want to give them. That there clearly are, and the majority of people out there are good and decent people who would have the welfare of the children at heart. And I think if you drive a wedge between them, I think you make the potential problem even worse than it currently is. I just wanted to comment, but I'm interested in hearing what you think about that.
So stay with me on this, and I appreciate that comment. I really do. And I can't speak on behalf of the words that this individual used in their response. I do believe that this person's intentions were in the mode of protection, and I'm willing to suggest that those words may not have come out the way she truly intended, or he may have intended. But to that point, Carlton, I had a conversation with this individual after that event. So I don't have a lens into the specific discussion you're referring to, but that was my interpretation, basically what you said, that this was an absolute, that no adult should be involved with a minor child. And someone came into the broadcast and also said that is not an appropriate thing to say. It is wrong for an adult to have a relationship with a minor child. And my response to that was, is this done in full awareness with the ability of having a discussion or a desired discussion to bring it into the awareness of the parents? And at what age would anybody say that it could possibly be wrong or dangerous for an adult to be interacting with a minor child? So this particular minor child was being represented as being 17, but this minor child was actually 14. But 17 helped compel the argument for this discussion that at 17, it's okay to have a minor relationship with an adult. But 14 got a little questionable. The same person that made this representation had a daughter. And I said, at what age would you think it would be appropriate or inappropriate for your daughter to be in a behind the scenes relationship on the internet with an adult? And he couldn't answer that question. So my point to that topic was, I don't think it's bad to have an adult relationship with a child. Outside the visibility and awareness of a parent, I think that's dangerous because people are not necessarily who they represent to be, and they all don't have transparent motives as to what that relationship would entail.
I think I think, and maybe this is just, we're using the two words differently. I wasn't, and maybe I said mine wrong. I wasn't implying that there should be a quote relationship in that this should be some type of a long-term permanent conversation that spans, some time period. What I meant to say,
that's the implication of the people engaging with this child.
Yes, but I guess what I meant to say was that, as you pointed out, Blab is open to anybody who can click a button.
Absolutely.
And my fear there is if an underage child comes into Blab and starts their own Blab as a host, for example, if good and decent people are afraid to even go into a Blab with them out of fear that they're going to be pegged as some type of a predator simply because they're in there, then then what ends up happening is no good people will come into the Blab. The only people that will go into the Blab with that underage child are people that don't care about that or who are predators. And so I think there is a danger in making people feel guilty about coming in and having a conversation with somebody that's underage just because they're on social media.
I'm not suggesting that they feel guilty, but I would suggest if I am the host of a Blab that has minors present, I would suggest the host has enough wisdom to treat that dialogue, both in the room and in the chat roll, as a G-rated movie.
I agree.
Out of respect of that child's parents.
Yeah, I agree.
There's no rule for that to happen. That rule is a made-up rule.
But it should be, and I think you would agree, it should be common sense. It's not,
no,
but it should be.
That's not common sense. That is so not common sense.
What, that you should?
We're attributing it as being common sense because
maybe
the argumentation.
What's not common sense?
It's not, because when I was having this conversation, Carlton, with these two individuals in the chat roll, the entire discussion on the chat roll on the side, even though I called attention that there are minors in this broadcast, I said there are minors here. The people that were coming into the side roll saying evil, vile, nasty things at me and to the woman, and that came into the room and said evil and vile and mean things, was off the hook. Off the hook.
I agree. No, I agree with that. I guess.
And what do we do to speech, Carlton? Are we going to say we do not have a freedom of speech? We could not possibly say that.
No, but when I have had conversations as a host, when I have had
Yeah,
conversations on philosophy or religion or whatever,
sure,
serious discussions. And I have
sure.
people, there is a young man who comes in periodically. He is 14. He's very articulate, very well spoken, very
Yeah,
intelligent person. He enjoys these conversations. Now,
yeah.
as a host, I don't have a problem with him in the room because the conversations are always G-rated. However, I have on occasion when we have talked about topics that are, I think, inappropriate for somebody that young age, even though
Mhm.
he may very well understand them and be able to contribute. I've simply asked him directly, and I've said, we're kind of going into an area here that I feel uncomfortable with you in the room. And he's been nice, and he's always said, not a problem, I get it, and he leaves the room.
It,
But I think
but
it is up to the host. Yeah.
that's correct, and I admire you and respect you for having an ethical barometer to know that you are crossing into a line that would be possibly inappropriate conversation matter for a minor child. So I applaud you for that. But the other people on the social media platforms don't have the same worldview that you do relative to a broadcasting ethic. You're labeling it common sense, but there are other
Right.
broadcasters on the Blab platform that don't have that same worldview that you do. And that they think
I agree. I acknowledge that.
so. That being the case, my message is to parents in the social media domain that there is no moral and ethic. What you want to ascribe as common sense, I applaud. And the way that you walk that, I applaud as well. But in the reality of this world, that's a minority position. That is truly a minority position. If you were to take that example you did and went hopping through Blab conversations this evening, you would see that violated all the time because nobody knows how old anybody is up top. There is no verification process to the age, and nobody is adhering to any code of conduct or language parameters or filters to any broadcast happening on Blab tonight.
So what is it then precisely that you would recommend?
Well, that's a great question. That's why I stand on this platform and on Periscope. That I want to talk to parents about awareness. Number one, that this is one symptom. There is no social media ethic. That absent of oversight, you have no basis to make any statement about your child's behavior on the internet because you don't see and you don't know what they're saying on social media. Any story that you say that my child is safe on the internet and you have zero visibility into what they're saying and doing and sharing. And then I talk about controls.
Mm.
So in this situation we're talking about right now with this young boy, his parents are disconnected from his own participation on social
Yes.
media. They have no visibility into it. So I would say to his parents, first, let me talk to you about what's going on in social media. Two, let's talk about a process where you can begin to gain awareness as to what your own child's activity is on social media. Don't take it away from them. Don't unplug your kid from the internet because that particular child disconnected from the internet will have massive trauma. Massive trauma. I've been traveling back and forth from a hospital from parents that have actually disconnected their child, who is very similar to this child on the internet,
Hmm.
who attempted to take his life on Friday night. Saturday, he was institutionalized for 72 hours mandatory observation. Monday, they're transporting him into a hospital in which they're going to commit him, but they didn't use secure transit. The parents thought that they would transport the child themselves, and the child opened the door on the highway at 55 miles an hour and jumped out. So that is their parents who had no awareness to what their kid was doing, unplug them from the internet, and the kid reacts. Logically, that's a logical conclusion that the child would respond to being his life chopped off right in front of him.
Sure.
So I talk about awareness, oversight, controls to bring this into a conversation with parents so they can make their own decisions based upon the relationship with their child, the age of their child, emotional development of their child, the responsibility, and be proactive as opposed to potentially not being able to have a kid go into college or get a job or possibly bury their child.
Okay.
That was my elevator pitch, Carlton.
That was a good pitch. No, I guess what I was trying to get to, and I'm going to get off here because I know we've got probably a lot of other people to do this, but I guess what I was trying to get onto is I get offended when I hear somebody else imply that if I am to befriend somebody who happens to be on social media, right? And I'm saying, look, I'm an adult. If you need to talk to an adult, if you've got a problem, if something is happening, I'm here. You can find me. You can talk to me. I will help you however I can. I resent the implication that I am doing something underhanded or that reeks of being a predator, or that I should not do that. Because while I agree with you, there are not many people maybe out there that would do that. I am not going to. I feel an obligation, the other kind of parental obligation, that if I see a child here on social media, in the same way that as a host, I would ask him to leave, or I would ask the guest to tone it down or change the topic, I also feel an obligation that if I see somebody that comes in, and there's a lot of people that are trolls, I know, but sometimes, and I don't have a background in counseling, but clearly sometimes there are minors on here that are here because there is something serious going on, either with their parents or just emotionally or whatever it may be. And I think it's good that they can find adults in that place should they need somebody. So that's kind of what I'm saying. And I understand, but I agree with you. It's the parent's responsibility to oversee and understand what's going on. I absolutely agree with that.
And Carlton, I hope and pray, I know,
that's
just
okay.
Give me that latitude. Give me that latitude.
Absolutely. Pray's fine.
That there are other people out there that have a heart and intestinal fortitude and a spine that are able to offer children a resource that will be respectful and speak into their lives, at the same time trying to get the child to have a conversation with the parent.
Yeah.
That is going to drive that relationship. And I don't know if you've ever seen behind my board, Carl. Have you seen behind my curtain?
No.
My Periscope audience hasn't seen it, and I don't think Nissan has seen it. My Nissan audience has seen it for a while. And it's a metaphor of what happens to me as a grown adult on this live streaming platform. So behind there are a host of different color Post-it notes, and each of those Post-it notes mean different things over time. And this is the assault that I personally receive from, I don't call them trolls, Carlton. I call them unidentified subjects. These are beings on the internet that are coming in under some alias account and say whatever vitriolic, vulgar statement that they want to make. And I give them the ability to know how I handle their nasty behavior. And if they warrant me blocking them or removing them from a broadcast, they're forewarned as to what is going to happen. So these people have behaved in violation of my requests of how I conduct my broadcast, and they get a block. Every one of those, every Samlin piece of paper represents 10 names. There's 10 names on there of people that have done nasty stuff.
Wow.
But that's not the bad part. The bad part is the people that come into my broadcast and say, Ryan, no matter what you do in trying to talk about awareness, oversight, and controls about keeping kids safe from the dangerous things that happen on the internet, we're going to get those kids anyway. So I can assume two things. One, it is an unsub that's just trying to get my goat, or it is a person that actually wants to go and cause harm to children.
Right.
So I have special tools, resources, and relationship with people in various technologies that I unmask the anonymity of those people that come into my broadcasts. I go and do research on them.
If you'd like to just send me a baseball bat and give me their address, I might be able to take care of it.
I do one step better. One step better. I get the research, I expose them, and I hand it to federal officials because this is interstate, this is not intrastate. This Post-it note here represents people that I have found verifiable sexual predators that federal law enforcement had the ability to get a search warrant, do a search, identify that this was a sexual predator.
Nice.
The lines mean they're in prison.
Nice.
I've been doing this for 3.5 months on live stream. I have over 9 of these in prison based upon my own activities. I am a pimple on the back of an elephant of broadcasters on live stream, and I'm a nothing on Blab, and I'm a very low broadcaster on Nissan Communications. I'm invisible for all intents and purposes. But that's what's happening to me, a mature adult wanting to protect kids.
I had a friend that is on Google Hangouts. He's a behavioral psychologist in
Yeah.
New York. He himself was talking about he got threats as well. He had threats from somebody in another country that actually this particular threat that he got was this person was going to visit him in person on the birthday of his child, and shoot him in front of his child. I can't imagine the kind of person that it would take to say that. We've had that here on Blab. There's a wonderful woman here with some children that have some medical issues, and that person was harassed. And I'm not just talking about saying, hey, you're stupid, hey, you're ugly. I mean,
yes.
This person was saying things that I won't even repeat. They were so horrific. I can't imagine why a person would ever say that. So I can't do anything but applaud what you're doing, Ryan.
But let me give you some, Carlton. I have a fatwa on my head. I have a fatwa on my head. I have had predators show up at my door.
You're serious?
Absolutely. My Periscope audience has seen it happen real time, that I've had to stop a broadcast and go up into my own home. I've had state troopers at my door. I've had federal officials at my door, because I am so into this, I can't shake parents up. I can't. It doesn't happen, because the parents say, it's not my kid. That's all they say. It's not my kid. And I say, you have no evidence to make that statement. And I'm out here fighting for the parentless.
Right.
These are children that must be orphans. Statistically, if 94% of parents think their kids are safe on the internet, well, these are all parentless children.
Yeah.
So yes, I am on the cutting edge. I'm on the razor's edge. My wife hates it, but my wife is in the clinical field as well, so she speaks into what I'm doing. I have people in my broadcasts now that are watching what I'm doing when I travel through social media, because there's a mandatory reporting thing that happens when I go on live stream. Those purple notes over there, my audience doesn't know what those are. Those are people that are buried that I have been involved with on Periscope alone. Those people have taken their own lives. And I try to intercede. I try to call first responders. They don't know how to handle it. Someone else wants to join us. I don't know who this is.
That's fine. I'll step out so they can.
This is
I can't imagine all the stuff that you're going through. I had one shining moment once, and it was at Twitter. It was a girl that we all talked to. Nobody knows at Twitter. Nobody really knows how old you are there. But I went on one day, and all of a sudden I got a bunch of tweets from all of her friends, 20 of them, all saying, where's so-and-so? I haven't seen her in hours, but she's always on. Well, and then somebody said, well, I got a note from her saying she's very depressed, and they thought she was suicidal. So I kind of did what you did. I did my best to research her Twitter account to figure out where she was from. She was from Scotland, so I called I literally used, Google and just said, find a police station somewhere in Scotland, gave them a call.
Yes.
To their credit, I was actually amazed. To their credit, she took down the little information that I had. Within 3 hours, I had a call back from her, from the woman who answered the phone at the police station, saying that she had passed that on, and they had tracked her down, and they had gone to her house, and she was fine. It was it was a boyfriend breakup, but she was okay now, and it was just a bad moment for her. So I can't. I mean, that was once, and I'm still thrilled about how that turned out. So I can't imagine all that stuff that you're going through. So anyway, let me get out of here. I'm talking too much, and you got a lot more to say. So,
Carl, I really appreciate you coming in and offering your commentary and your perspective. And I've enjoyed the conversations we've had in the past. So thank you for your contribution.
As have I. Thank you very much, Ryan. Talk to you later.
Take care. So there is somebody that came into the Blab that this was their first time on Blab, and they have no followers, and they want to come in and take a seat and ask a question. So for me, in managing it in the host seat, I would say to this person, Anita, if you have some conversation that you would like to offer in the chat role prior to taking a seat, I'd be willing to have that conversation with you. I don't have enough information about you being this your first day on Blab, and it's rather risky for me to open up a seat not knowing what I could anticipate in that seat. Very good. I didn't. Thank you. Somebody noticed that they were already gone, but I didn't notice it at the top. But that's an important thing. It's if I have an audience and a stranger comes into that audience, it has happened to me before when I let them into the seat. I am now witnessing something that is vulgar. I have some male that's exposing parts of his body that should be covered by a bathing suit. And I don't want that coming into a broadcast where I know I got minors on Periscope. I don't know if I have minors in Blab, that I don't want to bring that into my PG-13 movie. Running for Zion, I know. So as this host, this particular host, I'm just going to say, it's just me. And I'm okay with being just me. And people that disagree with me, that is totally fine. But in the manner in which I speak and the messaging that I talk about wanting to keep kids safe, at least you can rest that I'm going to be consistent with my messaging and the way I'm going to act in live stream. Call it Blab bombing. It is a fad. Now, on other social media platforms, that behavior is not addressed that way, but I don't have an issue with what other people do and how they manage their live broadcasts. I would have an issue and call them out if they were applying a double standard and were hypocritical about it, but I'm at least going to be consistent. And if I fall short, I know my audience will say, Ryan, you messed up. And I will submit to that correction and say, you're right, I missed it. I need to be better management of what's going on with this. So I thank you for those comments. I want to go back and invite those that are on Nissan. If they want to add some questions, please do so. You can call in at 919-518-9773, or you can come in on Skype at Computers 2K Voice. And people are asking me what my broadcast is about. Back on the Periscope, they've just joined a little bit late. My name is Ryan Miller. I am the founder of Parent Dome, where I speak about keeping kids safe in a digitally immersed life. And I talk about awareness, oversight, and controls. I am broadcasting on three platforms right now, here on Periscope, over on Blab, blab.im, and also on Nissan Communications. Tonight's topic is that there is no ethic or morality when you participate in social media platforms. When you're in live streaming, it's much more dangerous than when you go into a text-based communication. So right now I have already witnessed some of this behavior happening inside of my Periscope. I've seen it happen in Periscope, so I've had to remove some of that broadcast. I'm thankful that thus far I've only had one interruption on Blab, and I've had a very nice commentary from Carlton, who I do know from Blab. I've had several conversations with him, and I valued his insight. And I was pleased to hear how he handles these situations as an adult interacting with a minor. And I believe his heart and his actions is to be there, someone to restore and to help and to speak wisdom in the child. And I also believe that he would want to drive that child back to his parent. I believe that to be the case. Could be wrong. The other day, I was referring to, and I said it tonight to Carlton, that the major component of risk to children is this absence of oversight. And I've had to spend a fair amount of detail talking about that this is not a judgment-based statement that I make. I do not offer judgment. I speak wisdom, and you apply it to where you are. But when I talk about this oversight, whatever degree of oversight you have right now is based upon your current state of awareness. And I say, congratulations for what you've been able to do thus far in keeping your child safe and that it hasn't had too bad a consequence. But with the rapid advancement of social media outpacing our wisdom on how to use it, that oversight becomes more and more critical. So now I've had the opportunity to share some of the wisdom on the dangers, risks, threats, and permanence, that oversight component becomes really important. And I'm not offering any judgment to the parent and saying you're being a bad parent, because those aren't words coming out of my mouth, not at all. But if you have an emotional stirring in you right now that says that he is judging me based upon what I am or not doing, that's not me. That is an internal critic that is feeling this pain based upon this awareness that you didn't know about. And I'm suggesting get that internal critic out of this conversation. The internal critic doesn't need to participate. You can invite that internal critic after I'm done talking with you, because that internal critic is going to prevent you from maybe taking the necessary steps to help keep your child safe. And I don't offer judgment. So I don't leave you hanging here with this overbearing fear. That's not my goal. I'm giving you the reality of what's happening. But I want to reach my hand out and say, I'm here to help. I've got tons of resources to help. So I do want to make this point. If you go to my website, parentdome.com, it gives you a lot of resources to my social media profiles to begin with. So you can see me on Facebook and what I post there. You can get my YouTube channel, which has got the broadcasts that I do there. My catch directory, which has got over 600 videos in which I talk about. All of this stuff is free. Free. The other piece is I give you the ability to sign in for a free newsletter. That newsletter, it's right on my main page. Just put in your email, and every day that I broadcast, I give out this free newsletter. And that newsletter is the instant replay that you can fast forward through the broadcast to get the nuggets that you want out of the broadcast of everything that I talk about every day. Now, beyond that, the way I communicate on live streaming and in those videos, I provide compelling value, but the overarching value that I cannot disclose on live stream resides in a membership domain. That by gaining access to the membership, you get access to the tools and resources of the things that I will not speak about on live stream. And there's a premeditated reason I don't provide all of my content in a live broadcast. Parasoc, good to see you, my friend. Social media and tools themselves are not bad. An application is not bad. A laptop is not bad. A tablet is not bad. What we load on it is not bad. Whether we put spyware, adware, those things are not bad until we interact with them. So if I bring to light certain technologies, if I'm bringing them to light to provide protection and security for parents, for their family, those on the other side can use those to cause harm. They can leverage those things that you are not aware about against you. So I don't want to put all of this information out in a public domain, which has got no moral or ethical boundary, that they will take as an example. I'm not going to say what it is, but text-based encryption software. Maha, good to see you. Text-based encryption software gives kids to text between their friends and parents don't see it. Why would I want to put that out in the public domain for access to kids to be able to shield from their parents' access to visibility? I would not. So I do not. So my point to that is I provide an abundance amount of information on my topics, awareness, oversight, and control, about keeping kids safe in a digitally immersed life. I give you an access to a free newsletter, which you can get this information. And then I have an offer for those that want to be part of the Parent Dome family to help navigate this complex journey on keeping their children safe. And I provide offers all the time on this. I do private consultation with people to help navigate this journey. First priority, I am getting your comments, but I get distracted bouncing between three platforms. So that's my this is like squirrel herding. If you ever heard of squirrel herding, that's what I'm trying to do right now, because or cat herding. So I invite you, if you've been participating in this broadcast on either platform, to take a visit to parentdome.com. You get a little bit more information about me. You get the ability to know more about what this mission is about how to keep kids in a digitally safe world. I have some free stuff to give away to you about important things in that relationship with your child, a free download. I give you access to one of the most critical documents in my mind, and it's the starting point of the relationship when you're making that decision to put that technology in a child's hand. And it's a contract. It's an agreement. It's a bi-directional agreement that both the parent and the child has responsibility. So it starts with parent, technology, child, child, technology, parent. And it starts clearly with what is based upon the law. The law is parents are the legal contract holders of all internet connected material. They're legally responsible, regardless of what terms of service say on some application. It is, the law says you cannot enter into a contract with the minor. So all the contracts are being written by parents. So the contract is to protect the parent as to what legal risk they may get into. Also, they're the ones that own the technology. The child can't own that technology. You can let them use it on your behalf, but you're the owner of that. Children believe they have an ownership of it. Children, by association, believe they own that smartphone device, which is their pet, which doesn't leave their side. But they have no legal ownership of that device. Legally, it's owned by the parents. The bill is paid by the parents. The data pathway is owned by the parents. And oh, by the way, the content that resides on that phone is the parents as well. Taryn said that we should trust our kids. And Ronald Reagan said, trust, but verify. I don't know the character of anyone's child to assign any level of trust. Trust is a word that requires clarification. I can trust a thief to come into my house, that I will guard my house from that thief coming in. I can trust a nitwit coming into my house that they may be stumbling all over stuff. I trust in both of those situations, but I am trusting them for the character that they are. I need to know what the character of my child is, their psychological, emotional, responsibility development, to define what trust looks like when I am thinking about relinquishing the power of a pocket bomb to a child. Now that sounds like a mouthful, but that is what I call digital citizenship and digital stewardship. And there's another thing that's happening through all of this, and that is the influence. Yes, free consultants are out there, but they don't give you a lot of value for a free consultant. So no, there is a fee for the service that I provide, because I don't believe in being a free consultant. What good would my words be if they were free? So the other piece of that is there's an entire world. Thank you, Alyssa. There's an entire world out there that has alternate desires on our children. Somebody trusts their cat more than a kid. Can't argue. Can trust the cat on what they're going to do. These people out on the internet that are interacting through this device may do it for good, but they can also do it for bad. And if we ignore the possibility of bad and hope for just good, then that's just a gamble. And as Carlton was alluding to earlier, that he did not want to be ascribed as being a creep for wanting to reach out and help children. I think that's valid. I think that's valid that we don't want to be labeled that. But for me personally, in the intervention that I do on Periscope, I expect the world to call me the worst possible names. Because when I go in and intervene with those children that are about to take their lives on Periscope, there's maybe one or two other people like me trying to rescue that child. But the rest of the 75 to 100 people in that broadcast want that child to conclude that event. And all of that anger and filth coming at me, calling me a creep to get me out of this room, to help them accomplish their goal, which is to promote that child to take their life, I will wear that banner every single day. Those words have no power over me because they're not true, and I don't give them power over me. You can call me the most despicable thing in the world. At the end of the day, I've saved that child from taking their life, and it's not my child. And I have no real obligation to be that child's parent in that moment. But if I can rescue that child before that child takes their life, any name that is thrown at me, I will take. And yes, they will kick me out of the room. They will boot me out of the room because I'm trying to save that life. And all of these people will rally against me to get out of this life. And I have to use my words very carefully and measured to maintain that dialogue as long as I can before the hordes influence the person I'm trying to talk to kick me out of the room. And it has happened, and it happens, that I have to have multiple accounts at the ready so that I can come in and have another conversation for as long as I can, while at the same time trying to engage other people, to get resources, to make the phone calls to the police, to get there with an ambulance if need be. That's just me. Now, I'm a lone wolf out there. I am a lone wolf, and bring on the nasty words. Because when I was doing the broadcast this afternoon, the vile filth that was coming at me in defense of trying to protect children was an onslaught. And I'm so thankful that Blab has a record of what that conversation looked like, that I will have the video replay and the comments after, that I've asked that person who did that broadcast for permission, that I can share that with people, that they can see how I conducted myself in the face of filth in trying to bring clarity on what's happening on these social media platforms, absent of ethics and moral. Taryn Prade, would you speak to the kids or something? I do speak to the children, depending upon what the situation determines who I am having the conversation with. But the end goal is when people are in trauma, I have a couple of ways that I can address it. One is I can't do it too easily if you're talking to me on this broadcast. If you're doing something to yourself in harm, I can't talk you through that. Go to that bit.ly link right now and download that crisis document. It's a PDF of toll-free numbers for people to get on the phone and talk to somebody to get help. So here, you're in trouble, get help. I can't do it right here. I make myself available. I give people my email address, technoabanguy@gmail. They can email me directly. People direct message me on Twitter. I'm in constant communication. I'm getting constantly pulled into broadcast to rescue people. I am not the world's parent. I am not. I am no saint either. I do the best I can with what I have, and my mission is a noble one. And I will stand up here alone. I have people that are here that are loving upon me and encouraging me, but I really, most desperately, want parents to get rid of the internal critic, because I'm not judging you at all. Your children are in the balance. I want to love you through it. I'll give you the tools, whatever the resources you need. I can walk you through that path, how to have the conversation. Private consultation is part of it. But I've gone over my time. It was a great broadcast tonight at Nissan. Thank you all for joining me tonight. I'm going to keep the Blab open for a moment, and I'm going to close down the Periscope. Those in Periscope want to jump over to blab.im. You can join the conversation over there. And I'm going to say goodnight to my Periscope audience. Have a fantastic weekend. My probability of broadcasting tomorrow on Periscope is slim. I'm going to say possibly. Depends upon how my Saturday morning goes. That's all right, Jules. I have on replay. Thank you, Jamie. Jules, yes, I do have. Everything is on my catch replay. So everybody have a great night and enjoyable weekend on Periscope. And my friends over at Nissan, thank you so much. Have a great night. And I will see you next Friday. And I'm going to stay on here for Blab.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, My Life, My Will with Gisela DiCarlo, The Tanya Love Show, Health Then with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Triangle Be Well with Howard Jacobson, Lunch and Learn with Rabbi Yisrael Cutler, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, Parent Dome with Ryan Miller, Current Affairs with Amnon Nissan. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section on nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Atomos.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.